My name is Giriraj. In this video, we're going to discuss about Cloudflare One overview, and also I'm going to help you set up a Cloudflare Zero Trust account from the scratch. Cloudflare as a platform, it has multiple services and products, but in this video, we will focus more specifically into Cloudflare One. Cloudflare One is a combination of network services and Cloudflare Zero Trust services. The main goal of Cloudflare One is to provide secure access to any destination on the internet, and also Cloudflare One can be used as a replacement to provide secure access using ZTNA approach to any private application hosted in your data center or in any cloud infrastructure. And the Cloudflare One product can also be used to provide connectivity between a remote user to your branch or remote user to your cloud workload, or even provide connectivity between a branch to branch or branch to cloud. In this video, I'll help you understand how to configure the Cloudflare Zero Trust from the scratch as an administrator. So as I mentioned earlier, Cloudflare has multiple products, and all the configuration related to different product suites are managed from the single dashboard, as you could see here. My website, mytrust.co.in, Cloudflare acts as a authoritative DNS server, and I also protect this public facing website using the Cloudflare application security. But today we will set up the Zero Trust tenant from the scratch. I'm going to click on Zero Trust. Once you land into Cloudflare Zero Trust portal, let's go to settings. Each and every Cloudflare customer is identified a unique team domain name. So if you go on the settings custom page, I've already configured the team domain for my tenant. So this team domain for my Zero Trust account is trustmyco. This is unique to my tenant. While we have multiple customers, each and every customer is identified a unique team domain. Now the next setting is when we talk about Zero Trust, it's all about providing least privilege access based on the identity and continuous evaluation of the security policies. So let's go ahead and click on authentication. Using Cloudflare, you can integrate multiple identity provider, but for this demo, I'm going to use the default login method, which is one-time PIN. And in order to steer the traffic from a user PC to closest Cloudflare edge, there are multiple ways. If it's a corporate network, you can build an IPsec or a GRE tunnel. If it's a remote user, you can use a pack file, or you can use a Cloudflare agent, which is called Warp client. I'm going to set up a policy for enrolling a device into my Cloudflare Zero Trust tenant. So let's go to Warp settings. I don't have other identity or SAML services integrated, so I'm going to use the default one-time PIN. Under the rules, I'm going to create a rule who can enroll into my Cloudflare Zero Trust account. So I'm going to add a rule, production users, email ending in, my domain is mytrust.co.in, and I'm going to save the changes. So what it means is anybody who has a valid email account for the domain mytrust.co.in, they will receive the one-time PIN token. Using the one-time PIN token, they will be able to enroll their device. All right, the policy is created, and the next important setting is Cloudflare Zero Trust also acts as a forward proxy to protect all the outbound traffic to internet or an application request to your private application hosted in your data center or in a private VPC or cloud. So let's go to network settings. We need to make sure under firewall proxy, both TCP and UDP options are enabled. So when these two options are enabled, Cloudflare would be able to process both TCP as well as UDP traffic. And one more important configuration to check is the TLS decryption. When your users are browsing HTTPS website, Cloudflare should be able to inspect the payload to identify any malware or any threats, And also if you have configured any data loss prevention policies, we would be able to scan the uploaded file and apply policies based on your company compliance or security policies. So the TLS decryption should be turned on in order to perform SSL decryption or man in the middle. And the next important setting is the warp client configuration. There are few global configurations. So when you go to the warp setting, please ensure the installs CA2 system cert store option is enabled. So what it means is when you deploy or install the warp client on a user machine, as part of the installation, the Cloudflare root certificate will be deployed. Some organizations use a custom root certificate. That's also possible to deploy as part of the warp installation. As part of this demo, I will also enable the below settings, override local interface IP. What will happen is when I enable this option, when the warp client enrolls, it will set up a tunnel to Cloudflare Edge. So the virtual interface of the warp client will be assigned with the carrier grade IP address. Now I'm going to create a test profile. Let's call the test profile as production profile. And I'm going to create a simple policy. User email address matches @mytrust.co.in. You can integrate with Entra ID or any SAML identity provider, and you can apply user-based policy or group-based policy or even policies based on SAML attribute. But because I've not integrated any SAML IDP, I'll be using the email token to enroll my device. I'm going to use the WireGuard tunnel for now. When the warp client forwards the traffic securely to the closest Cloudflare edge, you can either use WireGuard or mask protocol, but for this demo I'll be using WireGuard protocol. I'll use the default configuration, and in the service mode I'll use gateway with warp, so I can inspect all the outbound traffic towards the internet using the Cloudflare Zero Trust. And I will create the profile. Once the profile is created, we can also manage the split tunnel configuration. For example, by default it was exclude IP and domains. If I click on manage, we have a predefined list of RFC 1918 and few other IP address. So what it means is in exclude mode, the warp agent will not intercept or change the route table for the traffic meant to following destinations, which means traffic meant to these destinations will not flow through Cloudflare. Instead, it will flow through the physical interface of the device. Apart from this, I'll go to the settings button. You can download the warp client from the Cloudflare admin dashboard. I would always recommend using the GA release, not the beta release. I'll quickly switch to a Windows workstation. I already have downloaded the warp agent, but I have not enrolled it to my organization. So what I will do is go to the system tray, click on warp agent. I'm going to click on preference, click on account, login with Zero Trust because I'm using an enterprise tenant. So we are going to use the team domain. So let me go back to the portal, check the team domain. It's mytrust.co. In a typical enterprise environment, customer would deploy the warp with this predefined values using MDM like Intunes or Jamf, but for this particular demo I'm doing it manually. Click on OK. If you remember, like I've configured email token to authenticate the service. I'm going to put my email address, send me the token. I'll quickly log into my email and check if there's any token in my inbox. Okay, here we go. There's a token. I'm going to use the token and enroll my device. on open. Let's see what happens. The device is enroll. I'm going to click on connect. Now let's see what happens. I'll go to google.com and check the certificate. We could see the SSL traffic is inspected by Cloudflare. Cloudflare is the issuer of the certificate. Okay, let's go to help.teams.cloudflare.com. You could see the traffic from my workstation is protected by Cloudflare, and the traffic is SSL decrypted, and my device is registered to Trust My Code Teams domain. And we could also see where the traffic is being forwarded. I'm working from home in Sydney, so you could see that my traffic is being processed by Sydney Cloudflare Edge. We can also see this information in the Cloudflare Warp Client UI. If you go under preference, you could see that my traffic is being forwarded to the Sydney data center. And we can also view the split tunnel configuration under exclude split tunnel, so which means any traffic meant to these destinations will not flow through Cloudflare. This concludes my demo, and let's see if the device is visible under the Cloudflare dashboard. So we could see that my desktop is enrolled at 3:07 p.m. and we can see various logs and internet browsing under the gateway and HTTP logs. So all this traffic is generated from my workstation. You can see various details about which policy was applied, from which location my device was connecting to Cloudflare, and the data upload and download transfer rate. In the next video, we'll discuss about how to configure various gateway policies, and thank you for your time.